The world can be a scary place, and we're reminded of that every single day in a lot of different ways. Unsolved mysteries are some of the most chilling reminders of just how unpredictable and unsettling life can be. What do you mean someone can just vanish without a trace? What do you mean crimes go cold for decades? What do you mean planes can just crash or vanish, and no one knows why? That's the kind of stuff that can and will keep you up at night. Well, what better time to dive into stories like this than 2025? So buckle up and hold on to your seats, because these are 15 disappearances that will make your head spin and your heart race. Number 15. Frederick Valentich. This one is the most chilling unsolved mystery, and it involves UFOs. It was October 1978 when this 20-year-old young boy was flying over the Bass Strait near Australia. He was enjoying the ride, but then he just disappeared. During the flight, he radioed air traffic control to report an unidentified aircraft tailing him. Frederick described it as long, metallic, and glowing like Hal Jordan. As the chit-chat continued, his voice became more frantic, saying that the unidentified craft was hovering above him and that his engine was conk out. Then, the transmission cut out suddenly. It was just it. Valentich was never heard from again. His plane was never found, and search efforts didn't find any wreckage. Some think aliens kidnapped him, while others proffer he became disoriented or experienced mechanical issues. Whatever it may be, this is not a normal case. If aliens really abducted him, then where would he be? It's a question worth Ganwu coin. Number 14. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. When Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 disappeared on March 8, 2014, it didn't just leave behind grieving families. It left the world scratching its collective head. A Boeing 777 packed with 239 passengers just vanished. It was supposed to be a routine flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, but somewhere over the South China Sea, it dropped off the radar like a ghost. Search crews scoured vast oceanic stretches, uncovering only a few battered pieces of debris years later. Was it hijacked? Did the pilot deliberately change course? Did aliens get bored and decide to pick up a souvenir? No one knows, and that's the kicker. Despite advanced tech, endless theories, and an oceanic game of hide and seek, MH370 remains aviation's greatest unsolved riddle. It's a tragedy wrapped in mystery, and every breakthrough seems to lead to more questions. Number 13. Virginia Dare. Virginia Dare's story is more unsolved mystery than cute colonial milestone. Born on August 18, 1587, she was the first English baby in the New World, making her a living historical trivia fact. Her grandfather, John White, was off fetching supplies when her colony, Roanoke, decided to ghost everyone, literally. When White returned 3 years later, there was no sign of Virginia, her family, or any of the settlers. Not even a cottage was left standing. The only clue? The cryptic word Croatoan carved into a tree, which, let's be honest, sounds more like a riddle than an explanation. Theories abound. Maybe they joined local tribes, fell victim to starvation, or, if you're feeling spooky, disappeared into thin air. Virginia Dare remains a poignant symbol of this unsolved mystery. Forever young, forever lost. Her story reminds us that history isn't always written. It sometimes just vanishes. So, never trust books. They won't explain all. Number 12. The Sodder Children. The Sodder children's disappearance might be the most bizarre Christmas story you've never heard. It all began on Christmas Eve, 1945, in Fayetteville, West Virginia. A fire consumed the Sodder home, but while George and Jenny Sodder and 4 of their kids escaped, 5 others didn't make it out. Or did they? Despite combing through the ashes, firefighters found no bones, no remains, and no answers. Even stranger? Well, the family's ladder was missing. Their trucks refused to start, and the fire department didn't arrive until morning, despite being only a couple of miles away. Witnesses later claimed to have seen the children alive, escorted by strangers. A woman in Charleston even reported seeing 4 of them with a suspicious group of adults. Were they abducted, and was the fire just a cover-up? The Sodders believed so, keeping their billboard plea for answers up for decades. It's a haunting case that leaves us wondering if some mysteries are meant to stay unsolved. Number 11. Brandon Swanson. Brandon Swanson's disappearance in 2008 feels like the beginning of a thriller, but without the resolution. The 19-year-old drove his car into a ditch in rural Minnesota and called his parents for help. He was calm, walking along the road as they tried to find him, when suddenly he blurted, "Oh shit!" and the call went dead. His car was found abandoned, but Brandon was gone, leaving only eerie silence in his wake. Extensive searches covered miles of countryside, but there was no sign of him. Not a shoe, not a clue. Was it an accident? Did he fall into a river or succumb to hypothermia in the Minnesota night? Or could foul play have been involved? His parents still hold out hope for answers, but the case remains an unsettling reminder of how a single moment can spiral into the unknown. Brandon's vanishing isn't just a mystery. It's a heartbreak, frozen in time. What do you think? What happened to him? Let us know in the comment below. Number 10. Ambrose Bierce. Ambrose Bierce wasn't just an author, he was the guy you'd want narrating your ghost story. Fittingly, his life ended with a mystery worthy of his own pen. In 1913, at age 71, Bierce, tired of civilized life, decided to head to Mexico and join Pancho Villa's revolution. Yes, you read that right. He ditched his comfy retirement to play revolutionary. He wrote a few letters back home, casually mentioning his plans. But then, nothing. Did he die in battle? Was he executed? Or did he fake his death for a quieter life far from the dazzling spotlight? Some say he staged his own disappearance, pulling a Hemingway before Hemingway was cool. Others think he might have found the ending to life he always wrote about, a sudden, inexplicable exit. Ambrose Bierce's final chapter remains unfinished, leaving readers and historians forever guessing. For a man who thrived on the macabre, maybe that's exactly how he wanted it. All right, now, let's move to number 9, Keith Reinhard. This bizarre mystery began in 1987 when Tom Young and his dog went for a walk near Silver Plume, Colorado, and vanished. Months later, hunters found Young's body, a gunshot wound to the head pointing to suicide. Then came Keith Reinhard, who rented the same shop Young had and became obsessed with his story. Reinhard even started writing a novel about a character combining elements of both men. In a twist that feels scripted, Reinhard went on a hike in 1988, a week after Young's body was found, and never returned. Searches yielded nothing. Was it a coincidence or something darker? Theories range from foul play to shared delusions, but no answers have emerged. Reinhard's disappearance leaves a haunting question. Could diving too deep into a mystery somehow pull you in? Well, that's why we stay miles away from mysteries. Number 8. Raoul Wallenberg. Raoul Wallenberg's heroics during World War II make his disappearance all the more haunting. A Swedish diplomat and businessman, Wallenberg used his connections and ingenuity to save tens of thousands of Hungarian Jews from Nazi persecution in 1944. He distributed Schutz passes, documents that acted as life-saving passports, and tirelessly negotiated with Hungarian authorities. But in January 1945, as Soviet forces swept into Budapest, Wallenberg was arrested under mysterious circumstances. The Soviets later claimed he died of a heart attack in 1947, but evidence and testimonies suggest otherwise. Some believe he perished in a gulag, while others suspect he lived under an alias. His fate remains a mystery, overshadowing his heroism. Wallenberg saved so many lives but couldn't save himself. leaving an unfillable void in the story of his extraordinary courage. Number 7. Jimmy Hoffa. Few names are as synonymous with intrigue as Jimmy Hoffa's. Rising to power as president of the Teamsters in 1958, Hoffa wielded unparalleled influence over America's largest labor union. But with power came corruption. By 1964, federal prosecutors finally caught up with him, and Hoffa went to prison for jury tampering and fraud. Released in 1971 under a deal to abandon union activities, Hoffa didn't exactly stick to the sidelines. On July 30, 1975, he was last seen at a Detroit area restaurant, allegedly meeting Teamster associates. He never returned. Searches for his body, from fields to cement under stadiums, have yielded nothing. Legally declared dead in 1982, Hoffa's disappearance has sparked countless theories, from mob hits to rogue union deals gone bad. His vanishing act remains one of the 20th century's most gripping mysteries. Number 6. Ray Gricar. Ray Gricar was a seasoned prosecutor with a reputation for solving tough cases, but his own disappearance is a mystery no one has cracked. On April 15, 2005, Gricar told his girlfriend he was skipping work for a relaxing day in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. The next day, his car was found abandoned in a parking lot. Months later, his laptop was discovered in a river, its hard drive missing. When the hard drive was eventually found, it was too damaged to retrieve data. Despite extensive searches, no trace of Gricar ever surfaced. He was declared dead in 2011, but questions linger. Did he meet with foul play? Was it a planned disappearance? Gricar, who prosecuted countless criminals, left behind an enigma that might never be solved. Number 5. Barbara Newhall Follett. Barbara Newhall Follett was the literary prodigy you'd expect to see in a Netflix biopic. A published novelist at 8, an acclaimed writer by 12, and an undeniable genius. But her brilliance came at a cost. She was an adult by the time she should have been playing tag. By 25, Barbara's life took a darker turn. On December 7, 1939, after a heated argument with her husband, she walked out of their home in a huff, taking $30, a decent chunk of change back then, and never returned. Her husband, in a move that screams suspicious, waited 2 whole weeks before reporting her missing. His excuse? He thought she'd come back. Sure, pal. Investigators found no leads, and her disappearance remains a mystery wrapped in a tragic tale. Was it foul play, or did she finally escape a life that suffocated her? Either way, her story is a heartbreaking reminder of brilliance lost far too soon. Number 4. Paula Jean Weldon. Paula Jean Weldon wasn't just any college sophomore. She was the kind who decided to take a long walk one December day in 1946 and ended up in the middle of a mystery. She left her Bennington College dorm, headed into the woods, and was never seen again. Local lore in Vermont has long tied her disappearance to the Eerie Bennington Triangle, an area infamous for strange vanishings. Police and volunteers searched high and low, even dredging rivers, but there was no sign of Paula. A local man later bragged he knew where her body was buried but failed to deliver specifics, leading many to wonder if he just enjoyed attention. For a brief moment, suspicion even fell on her father, but he was cleared. Paula's vanishing has left a legacy of theories: murder, abduction, or maybe even an intentional escape from her life. Number 3. Sarah Jo. The story of Sarah Jo is the ocean's way of saying, "I'll keep your secrets forever." In February 1979, 5 friends took their small fishing boat off Maui's coast, right into one of Hawaii's worst storms. The search that followed was exhaustive, but not a trace of the men or their boat was found. Fast forward 10 years, and here comes the twist. Sarah was discovered wrecked on a remote Marshall Islands shore, 200 miles away. Nearby, a single grave containing one of the men, marked with a handmade cross. Here's where it gets truly spooky. Who buried him? And how did they even get there? There were no signs of the other men or any clue to explain the burial. The case feels like a blend of lost and unsolved mysteries, with more questions than answers. What happened out there in those vast, unforgiving waters? We may never know. Number 2. Walter Collins. 9-year-old Walter Collins's disappearance in 1928 isn't just tragic. It's the kind of saga that could fill an entire Netflix series. One day, he left for a movie in Los Angeles and never came home. His frantic mother, Christine, reported him missing, sparking a desperate search. Months later, a boy was found in Illinois claiming to be Walter. Christine welcomed him home, but soon realized something was off. This kid wasn't her son. Despite her protests, the LAPD insisted he was Walter, even accusing Christine of being a bad mother when she refused to accept him. Eventually, the boy confessed he was actually Arthur Hutchins, a runaway looking for adventure and a chance to meet a cowboy star. Christine sued the police, but Walter was never found. Adding to the heartbreak, the notorious Wineville chicken coop murders raised suspicions he was one of the victims. Number 1. Al-Hakim. Al-Hakim wasn't just any ruler. He was the guy history books describe as eccentric, which is polite for absolutely unpredictable. Leading the Fatimid dynasty from 996 to 1021, his policies veered wildly between benevolent and baffling. One day, he'd be handing out free bread. The next, he'd ban women from leaving their homes, or shoes from being made for them. A legend in contradictions, Al-Hakim's reign ended as mysteriously as it began. One February night in 1021, he rode out of Cairo, alone, and was never seen again. No body, no horse, no evidence. Theories range from political assassination to voluntary exile. Some believe he faked his death to live a simpler life, while others think his enemies finally had enough of his whims. His vanishing act solidified his legacy as one of history's most enigmatic leaders. Perhaps Al-Hakim simply took his love of unpredictability to the next level and left us all guessing. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.